I remember when DK Metcalf arrived in Pittsburgh. People were like, "Oh, DK Metcalf and George Pickens." And you're like, "No. They're trading Pickens because they just gave to Metcalf the contract they would have given to Pickens, and they have to justify the Metcalf contract in a year where Pickens is trying to earn his contract. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be dysfunction on top of dysfunction. They will trade George Pickens, and they did. So Metcalf got the 5 years, $150 million contract. Metcalf also got the 2-game suspension on Monday for the interaction with the fan, initiating contact with the fan, grabbing his shirt, yanking him down over the railing, and pushing up forcefully with a closed fist that opened and glanced, grazed at best. But still, it was an ugly situation. As I wrote at PFT, the league had no choice but to suspend him, and the commissioner had no choice but to uphold the suspension. Now, the commissioner delegated to former NFL coach Chris Palmer, but regardless, you don't get those delegations if you do something other than what you sense the person who made the delegation wants you to do. So, $555,555 lost by DK Metcalf by missing the next 2 games. There are other financial ramifications. I have seen many address this, and I believe that they are not entirely accurate as it relates to the second item. Let me address the first item, beyond the lost pay. There was a $30 million signing bonus given to Metcalf. That works out to an allocation of $6 million per year on the 5-year deal. The way the CBA works, if you commit a forfeitable breach, and this is one, a suspension of 2 games for conduct detrimental to the NFL is a forfeitable breach. Under the CBA, the team is authorized to recover 25% of the allocation of the signing bonus for that year. That's $1.5 million. We've seen no reporting as to whether or not the Steelers are going to seek $1.5 million back from DK Metcalf. They have every right to do it under the CBA, and I've reviewed the contract. The way the contract is written, they have the full rights available to them in the contract under the CBA. They can ask for $1.5 million back from DK Metcalf if they want to. Now, moving forward, he's got $25 million in fully guaranteed money for 2026 and a $20 million injury guarantee for 2027. There's a question as to whether those payments have already voided or whether the team needs to send a letter to Metcalf exercising their right to void them. It's an important distinction. If they're already voided, the Steelers can make their decision whenever they want about what they're going to do with Metcalf. If the money next year is already, the guarantee is already voided, they can release him. They can move on from him. If they just decide this guy's more trouble than he's worth, and hey, Mike Tomlin has come out in support of him, said he's been a great guy on the team. You know, I don't expect him to come out and air dirty laundry. That's not Tomlin's style. We always find out about the dirty laundry after the guy's gone or as they're setting up the move away from the guy. But if the guarantee is already voided, they don't have to do anything right now. They can bide their time. They can see how DK responds to this. They can see how he participates or not in the offseason program. Maybe he'll be there for every workout, bells on, with the right attitude, doing everything. It's a hell of a weapon that the Steelers have if the guarantee has voided. Because they have until week 1 of the 2026 regular season to move on from DK Metcalf without owing him the $25 million. Once he's on the roster week 1, they owe it as termination pay if they would cut it. So it gives them a lot of flexibility. And also, if the 2027 injury guarantee is gone, boy, that gives them something too. Because let's say he suffers a serious injury next year that would affect his availability in 2027. That's why you have an injury guarantee. You move the injury risk to the team. Well, now, if that guarantee is gone, the injury risk is on the player. Serious injury next year, Metcalf can't play in 2027. He doesn't get the $20 million injury guarantee. So my point is this. If I'm Metcalf's agent, and I saw the report from NFL Network that the Steelers have already reaffirmed their commitment to DK Metcalf. The comment was, the guarantee is voided, but the Steelers have reaffirmed their commitment. Okay, you know what? If the guarantees really have voided, and I still don't think they do unless there's a letter sent, a letter that maybe the Steelers don't want to send now because they're focused on keeping this guy, on board with the effort to win playoff games and maybe pursue a Super Bowl and the way they played against the Lions, maybe they can. But if I'm Metcalf's agent, I am getting it in writing that they've reaffirmed their commitment. I'm getting those guarantees reactivated. I'm getting a revision to his contract that makes it clear that even though the contract says the guarantees will be null and void in the event of a suspension for conduct detrimental to the NFL, among other things, there were several different ways you could void the guarantees. I want it in writing that the guarantees still exist. I don't want to play this game, this gotcha game, where if they cut Metcalf and say, hey, the guarantee's voided. No, I don't want to do that. That's one of the important things when you're practicing law. You have to identify the areas where your client could get screwed later, and you engineer into the current circumstances protection against getting screwed later, because you never know what's going to happen later. But you do know what you could do now to protect against the bad outcome later. I would do that right now. I would bring that issue to a head. I'd call Omar Khan and I'd say, hey, look, you're reaffirming your commitment to DK Metcalf. Let's put it in writing. Because as I've said time and again, verbal promises aren't worth the paper they aren't written on. And all of a sudden, if things go south between Metcalf and the Steelers, I don't know. Flick who? Get it in writing. Whoever it is that represents DK Metcalf, and I'd have to look it up. It's not one of the major firms. Get it in writing and protect your guy. If they've reaffirmed their commitment, you want that protection. Because the way the contract's written, the way the practice is usually done with the team affirmatively notifying of a void of the guarantees, there's just too much gray area. Make it black and white and get it in writing. One last thing as it relates to the Metcalf situation. At some point on Friday, the fan who was assaulted, and I'm sorry, I know it became a joke after Myles Garrett hit Mason Rudolph with his own helmet, and Adam Schefter tweeted assault, and my friends at Pardon My Take clowned him for it. It is an assault. Anytime you go up to anyone, even if you just poke them, in the chest, that's an assault. It's an assault and battery. It's an offensive touching that you're not welcoming. There could be a lawsuit over what DK Metcalf did to the fan. Now, he wasn't injured, so what would a jury give Ryan Kennedy, the fan who was assaulted by DK Metcalf, in a court of law? What would you give him? $5? Right? Absent some compelling evidence of PTSD or some psychological issue that I don't want to diminish, because these things can happen. People can have trauma that we don't obviously see. But the guy looked excited after it happened. He said that was the goal, or words to that effect. Here's where it becomes problematic. When Metcalf's camp started pushing the story on Monday morning that the fan had used a racial slur toward Metcalf and had said inappropriate things about Metcalf's mother, supposedly the C word, once that got out there, Chad Johnson put it out there, stating it as fact on the Nightcap podcast. Tom Pelissero put it out there, citing a source close to Metcalf, without mentioning that Ryan Kennedy had already told the Detroit Free Press, I just said his full name, Metcalf's full name. He didn't like having his full name being uttered. Ryan Kennedy was painted a certain way that's false. I think a defamation case against Metcalf, whoever it was, and it would start maybe as John Doe, and through the discovery process, we'd find out who it was that was the conduit between Metcalf and Chad Johnson, Metcalf and Tom Pelissero. The lawsuit goes against NFL Network. It goes against the Nightcap podcast. I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble. I'm just trying to, the trouble's already happened. I'm trying to sift through it. But I think what's going to happen, and for all I know, it's about 10:20 a.m. as I wrap this thing up today. I think they're planning to file a lawsuit, and I think the defamation claim will be part of it. There's too much that's been said in the statement that was issued by Kennedy's lawyers, in the notice of the press conference that's going to happen. You know, the allegation is that a lie has been told about what Ryan Kennedy said to DK Metcalf, that the aftermath has been harassment, threats, fear for the safety of Ryan Kennedy and his family, the kind of psychological trauma that does become a potential six-figure award if you can prove defamation. And remember, he may be in the process of becoming a public figure. At the time the thing was said that he claims was false, he's not a public figure. You don't have to prove malice. The bar's not high. All you have to prove is somebody said something false about me and it harmed me in some way. And then off you go. I think that's what's going to happen. I won't be surprised if the lawsuit's filed today, next week at the latest. It's all pointing in that direction. And it's going to be an interesting case study. Not only as it relates to a player initiating contact with a fan and the provocation that may or may not have justified it, but that effort after the fact to activate the spin cycle. Because what Metcalf's camp was trying to do, trying to work the media to get some support for something other than a suspension. They're trying to just get the word out there that what Metcalf did was justified because the things this guy said were awful. Well, you know what? And Aaron Rodgers, he and I disagree on a lot of things, but we agree on one thing. The stuff Aaron Rodgers said this week about Metcalf, about fans who think they buy a ticket, it's basically a blank check to say whatever you want. I've been there. I've been there on the field, walking off the field. And it's usually just you suck and I smile and wave. But, you know, I've heard some things. You go to a game, you sit in the stands, you see people acting up. They have a few overpriced beers and they think they have a right to say whatever they want to say. And there is a code of conduct. And the NFL has said it's examining the situation and maybe they will take action against Ryan Kennedy. And the NFL, to the extent the NFL is going to be sued for defamation, they'd probably like it to be true that the guy said the things that their reporter reported he said. That's where it gets a little weird, gets a little awkward. But hey, I'll say this. If Ryan Kennedy crossed the line, where's the video? Where's the audio of him shouting a racial slur, of him using the C word in reference to DK Metcalf's mother? Where is it? Everybody's walking around with the cell phone device. We're all Big Brother if we want to be. We've seen different angles of the interaction. I haven't heard anything inappropriate. So this is something that the league, that media outlets, that players should learn a valuable lesson from, and fans as well. It would be nice if fans didn't act like jerks at games. It would be. Well, it's on the league. It's on the operators of the stadiums to ensure that the fans who do act that way are dealt with harshly and are ejected from the stadium and are banned from future stadium events. You have to expect it. You have to have a higher standard for what you won't tolerate in order to get the outcome you're looking for. But until that happens, you don't walk over and initiate contact with a fan. You don't do it. And you have an apparatus in place. It was borderline comical when Mike Tomlin was asked about whether or not the Steelers have a protocol that keeps players from approaching the fans. His first answer was a non-answer. And the follow-up was, so is it yes or no that you have a protocol? And he said, we certainly may. We certainly may. We certainly should. He didn't say that. He said, we certainly may. His attention's on the field. He assumes that they have a great security apparatus, but you know what? Either they don't or they do, and it failed miserably. Just watch those videos. DK Metcalf walks over unimpeded, unbothered. Nobody says a word to him as he walks over and reaches up and snatches the shirt of Ryan Kennedy. So other teams have it. Every team should have it. Every stadium has fans who will say outlandish stuff. And I don't know if irony is the right word here, but Seattle, I heard from a long-time employee of a team who's been to every stadium. Seattle has the fan who is the worst, vicious and mean, parked by the tunnel that the visiting team uses. That guy is over the top, the source said. I don't know who the guy is, but whoever the guy is, I bet they don't know who he is. But he's there every game, and he's always giving it to the opposing players. And you just have to have a hard shell about that. I mean, I assume plenty of outlandish things are said on the field to try to get under players' skin, to get them to crack, take a swing, 15 yards, get ejected. So whatever mode you slip into on the field to deal with all the horrible things that are said between the white lines, you got to keep that force field up when you're hearing it in the stands. And there's never, I don't care what they say, there's never an excuse for taking matters into your own hands. You go to security and you say, Listen to what this guy's saying. Get him out of here. That's what you do, and that's what DK Metcalf should have done in the future. That's what all players should do. All right.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.